Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Leah and I live with this little girl, Dick, and my partner Martin here on our land in Central Portugal. Yeah. Today I want to talk to you about something that seems to bring up a little bit of discussion, some questions. People think, is it possible, is it not? And I want to talk to you about some of the reasons that we have and from our experience why it is great to raise children off the grid. Some of these are also applicable to if you're just raising your children in the countryside on a small farm. But for our situation, we live off the grid. So we have water from our well, and we have electricity from our solar panels. We heat our yurt with a fire in the winter. So we don't have any connection to the grid for water or electricity or something like that. So we are completely off grid, and that brings its challenges. If you are also a parent, you know that children come with a lot of extra laundry. On the grid, if you just live in a normal house, it's quite easy. You just get a washing machine, you put everything in, and it's just part of your weekly routine. For us, being off the grid, it is not so simple because for a washing machine you need two things, namely enough water and enough electricity. And for a while we didn't have either of those. Our well was dry over the last summer. We built a bigger solar system, so in the next couple of weeks, months, we could finally get a washing machine. If you have enough funds from the beginning, that's definitely something to think about, just to get those basics done, and then you can have a washing machine, and that really makes life so much easier. Um, Over the last almost year, I've been doing a lot of hand washing. We visit friends to use their washing machine. We go to the laundrette, but all of those ways take way much more effort than just putting it in the washing machine and being done with it. So some things might take more time, or they're a bit of a logistical issue, but they can definitely be done. Going off the grid does not mean that you have to wash your clothes by hand for the rest of your life. Uh, we, at least we do not ascribe to the idea that electricity is evil. For now, we love it. It takes a little preparation, a little bit of work, but the things that come with having children, like doing more laundry, can definitely be done off grid. One of the misconceptions that I think is kind of out there about living off the grid is that by definition, living off grid means that you're very isolated, that you are far away from other people, far away from town, all that stuff. So we have here in Central Portugal, we have stayed in places where that was the case. We had to drive 45 minutes through the mountains to get to a shop and that type of thing. But right now, the land that we bought is actually really close to a provincial city, and it's in between two villages that have one of which has a school and the other one has a shop as well. So we're really not that isolated. There are many people around, and while here in central Portugal, especially this region, there's a lot of young people moving away. There are also young people coming in from other countries, like we are. So there's next to the community that is already there, there's also a growing community of young alternative people who want to live like we do. So in the first little while, it took us some time to get to find that community and to get to know other people. Um, but for us, at least, off-grid living does not mean that we are isolated in any way. That we have no people around for Puck to play with. Even if you are living off-grid a little bit more remote, um, from what we have experienced in other places, it does also mean that the people who are still there, they're very community minded. So um, they help each other with things that happen, and you're really a lot more connected in even just a little community. than you would be if you are living in a city. Because when we lived in the city, I did not know my neighbors except for some negative aspects of their life. So that's one thing I wanted to clear up. Off-grid living does not mean isolation. Another reason why it's actually great to live off the grid with kids is that, in my experience, kids absolutely love nature. So they love playing outside, they love learning new things about nature. And so Puck, for example, especially when she was even more little, she could sit for hours just watching the ants going up and down their anthill, building things. And it is my opinion that being outdoors is the healthiest place a kid can be. Builds their immune system, all that good stuff, and they really learn a lot. It's a great learning environment, not just physically because she has to jump up and down of things, she has to keep her balance. Like, she's the best climber. She's a little mountain goat. And she can learn about different plants, about different animals, and all that stuff is just right here in front of her. And she really gets to feel, and she really gets to grow up with all that stuff and learn from the get-go how the rhythms of nature work. So it's not just that kids love playing outside, it's not just a playground, but there are many different layers to why it is, in my opinion, so important for kids to be outside. And we can offer her that here on our land. So another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is really important and why we chose this way of living, is that through living this lifestyle, we can teach our child some of the values that we find important. So that are things like growing your own food, just the importance of hard work, but also living with the seasons, living a simple lifestyle, that you don't really need much to be happy, and most importantly, that we get to steward this beautiful piece of land, and I hope that teaches her how important nature is, and we can have a negative or positive influence on our environment, and I hope to teach her the positive environment. So those are some things that are really important to us that we want to teach her, and the best way of teaching a child what's important to you is just by doing it and showing it, leading by example, and by doing the type of work that we do. We want to teach her some of those things. You could also do that type of work on a farm or in a city, but this is how we choose to lead by example. And I think this is easier to do once you step out of the system and you get to model a new way of living, a different way of living, one that is important to us. I think one thing that the current crisis is really underpinning is that the system, how it is running, is really not sustainable for the long term. And so we want to teach her something different. And finally, and maybe most importantly, what our current lifestyle is giving us is a lot more time. So we are quite privileged in the sense that we don't have a mortgage, we don't have a house to pay, we don't have to pay for the land anymore, and we don't have any bills to pay when it comes to gas or electricity. So that gives us the opportunity to work less and to spend more time with Puck. That brings its challenges, as many parents right now know it's quite hard to get things done with a toddler around. So the parenting style that we chose is to just be there. I think time is really the most important thing that you can give your child. It's just time and attention. So even though it makes it a lot harder to prune the olive trees or do the laundry or anything, um, with her around it takes about 3 times longer. Um, but you learn through doing, so that's what we're doing. That does not automatically mean that we're gonna homeschool, but that's a discussion for another video. Um, but we do really enjoy this time with her especially at this very young age of 2. Instead of dropping her off 5 days a week, because we are in the position that we are, we get to spend time with her and we don't have to pay other people to do the work that we want to do ourselves. So we're obviously very grateful for that, and I understand if that's not for you or you have to work outside of the home. Um, but this is one thing that comes with a lifestyle in the way that we have set it up. So, my final piece of advice for if you are a parent and you are thinking of taking the leap and starting this type of lifestyle, I understand it's scary. Pig was only 3 months old when we moved into the camper van and started traveling. But I would say just do it. It's going to be stressful at some point. It's going to be amazingly wonderful in other aspects. So if you are thinking but you're not sure if it can be done, it can absolutely be done. It's gonna bring you and your child some wonderful things. So don't be scared, just do it. That's all I had to say today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you can take something from this. And if not, I'll be back on Sunday with another vlog. This week we are building the frame for our solar system, and we're gonna install that soon. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on Sunday. Bye.